Perfect. So it looks like we're live. So yeah, hi everyone. To formally introduce myself, my name is Sean Scully. I'm co-founder of Clonakilty Distillery. Some of you are familiar with our brand, some of you aren't. I'm just going to speak as if no one has heard of our brand before for the next period of time that I'm with you. But I appreciate you guys having me on to talk about ourselves. Basically, yeah, I'm going to give you a run through of our whole history. It's a relatively short history to date. We were founded in 2016, opened our doors at the distillery in 2019. And like I just said there in the back chat there in the room, we just launched the first whiskey that's 100% our own spirit in May of this year in Ireland. And that came to the US in September of this year. So really big milestone for us to have our own juice in the market. And we're delighted with how it's been received so far. So excited to sample that to you guys. So yeah, we'll be sampling 4 whiskeys tonight. Start off with our single malt Bordeaux cask finish, then try our double oak, move on to our port cask finish from there, and then finish off with that single pot still. But yeah, we've a pretty extensive story, to be honest. We have a lot of points to touch on. Most of it it revolves around the maritime environment that surrounds us in County Cork in Ireland. And you know, the idea from day one was to see how that maritime environment affects the barley as we grow it and the whiskey is matured at our Atlantic Ocean warehouse. And we really feel like it has affected our whiskey now that we have our own juice in the market. So we'll be delighted to hear what you guys think of all these whiskeys, and you know, would love to make this chat as collaborative and communicative as possible. So please stop me if you have any questions at any point. If you'd like me to expand on anything, just please let me know. I find that's how these things go best. So yeah, I might just share my screen, Kane, if that's okay, and I'll share a quick video just because we are a very visual distillery, and my words can only do everything so much justice. You really have to see where we're located to take it all in, to be honest. So I'm going to share this now. Okay. If the audio is terrible, someone shout at me and I'll shut it off.
The story of Clonakilty Distillery starts just outside the town at the Gallyhead Lighthouse, an area of incredible natural beauty. Our fields at the foot of the lighthouse are the perfect environment to nurture and grow the finest of barley, exclusively for our own uniquely Irish single pot still whiskey. Centuries of sea mist, soft rain, and salty ocean spray provide a complexity to the soil that permeates right through to each individual grain. The Scully family, founders of Clonakilty Distillery, have farmed this coastal land for 320 years and 8 successive generations. As custodians of this majestical slice of coastline, we trust our soil, our Atlantic maritime climate, and our untouched water aquifers. At the distillery, here at the waterfront in Clonakilty, we use this barley, in addition to barley carefully sourced from local farmers, to produce our own distinctive new make spirit. Our 3 beautiful copper pot stills have been handmade to perfection by the family of firm of Barrison in Italy, who have a tradition of craftsmanship of more than 100 years. Specifically designed for a triple distilled Irish pot still whiskey, the still house is largely manually operated, just giving Paul, our head distiller, the opportunity to fine-tune and lovingly handcraft each individual batch. The tall neck stills naturally produce an elegant spirit, while the unique mixture of malted and unmalted barley will give the spirit its wonderful complexity that can only be achieved from an Irish single pot still. For cutting our new make spirit, We source the purest of water from our own dedicated well at the Scully family farm. Remote and unspoiled, the water is drawn from deep within the ancient rock formations by our ocean cliffs. Cold, unadulterated freshness, generously gifted by Mother Nature herself. This cutting and cask filling is done on the family farm at our Atlantic Ocean warehouse, 200 feet above sea level by the cliff edge. It is where we mature the finest of whiskies. Pure, clean air, transported across thousands of miles of Atlantic Ocean, providing a freshness unspoilt by human intervention. This is a magical place with a unique and special diversity of climate. Like the ocean itself, it is ever changing, from the wild Atlantic storms to the glass calm reflections of a perfect summer's day. In this dynamic, natural environment, the whiskey will only sleep for a short while, instead interacting with the wood and the angels to develop a unique and distinct maritime flavour. Just as the alcohol vapour evaporates from our barrels, the sea salt-laden air permeates through the wood, over time imparting its unique flavour to the whiskey inside. After 320 years of farming the land at the known, we're used to living on the edge of Europe in a place apart. Now is the time to embark on a new journey, to give something back, to share, to craft spirits that feed the soul. We invite you to join with us on this very special journey.
Okay. Did that work for everyone? I hope it did.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I'm on Mountain Time. I got the time zone mixed up. Apologize.
No problem. Hey, Gregory. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thanks for joining us. Did that video work for everyone? Perfect. Good stuff.
Sean, I always wanted to know, how big is that? How big is your land there?
We have 350 acres of land in total, but most of it's allocated towards our dairy farm.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, so you're probably aware that we actually have a gin, Minky Gin and Minky Vodka, and they're both whey-based spirits. So we tied in the dairy side of the farm by producing those spirits.
Yeah, I wish I'd included those in the samples. I forgot. Their gin is phenomenal. It's whey-based. It's made from whey protein. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm going to try and share my PowerPoint right now, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've never used this thing here, so hopefully this works.
So meanwhile, I think we could start sipping the first one while Sean.
Yeah, please, let's do that. The file's uploading. So so we're gonna start with the single malt.
Yeah, single malt is this color.
Yeah, the kind of turquoise color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the single malt it's a really interesting whiskey. It's actually pretty much discontinued now in the US. So we're kind of phasing it out because we're kind of redefining our core range. We've actually introduced a new entry-level Galley Head Irish whiskey, it's called. And we've reduced the price of our double oak down to $39.95, and we now have our single pot still. So those three whiskeys are becoming our core offerings. But this single malt we've had in the market for maybe 3 to 4 years at this point. And it's a really surprising one, to be honest. We previously did have a single grain Bordeaux cask finish in the US. That was obviously being single grain, being corn, more light, delicate. It was finished off in Bordeaux casks, which brought through light strawberry notes. This single malt, it's a different beast. Obviously, it's going to be more bready and biscuity being a single malt. But I don't have it on me to sample right now because I'm at home in Ireland. But on the nose, it's almost like if you've had green spot before, that kind of fresh, crisp green apple note on the nose is what hit me immediately, and that's the overwhelming note I get on the nose. And then on the palate, I get some banana coming through. So these are official tasting notes here on the screen, and they're not, those notes aren't on it, but that's what I get predominantly. It's very tropical. So I think it's a very unique tasting Irish whiskey. It certainly stands out from the pack from all our lineup. I haven't had any Clonakilty whiskies that are quite as tropical as this, so it's a lovely drop. I think it's bottled at 46% ABV, so it's a tiny bit higher than our other SKUs, our other core SKUs. But yeah, you'll get honey, floral plum, berries on the nose. As I said, on the palate, banana is the really interesting tasting note. Bit of cinnamon, clove, those baking spices coming through, and vanilla cream on the finish. So I'm not sure how you run things, Kane, but I'm not sure if you like to allocate time to talk about the whiskies, or else I can really just start diving into our story here.
Oh no, let's talk about this. I want to hear from everyone what their tasting notes are, so Greg, Scott, Roosevelt knows the drill, so Corey knows the drill too. So Corey, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the honey, cinnamon, spice, vibe, up and down. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Really nice.
Thank you.
I get a lot of cereal notes. I get a huge burst of oatmeal gruel. It's very oatmeally. And Jason, how do you? Because you're a Irish drinker, what do you say?
I'm absolutely the worst person to ask for tasting notes because it's whiskey to me. It's good or bad, and I cannot pick out notes to save my life. But I'm easily influenced. So if somebody tells me they smell something or taste something, then I usually taste it.
Well, that's an okay way to be.
Yeah. So sorry,
Greg. What about you?
The nose on it really, really surprised me because I don't drink a lot of scotches or single malts or Irish whiskeys. I'm really impressed by it. The citrus, the vanilla, it's extremely inviting. The honey is really prominent, and which surprised me for the proof level. I usually drink higher proof whiskeys.
Brilliant. Glad you enjoy it. Thanks, Greg.
Scott, do you have any observations to share? Prospero.
Well, I found it interesting. You said banana, because when I first immediately hit the nose, I maybe it was a little bit of that vanilla, but it was almost like there was a kind of almost a candy to it. And I think that when you said banana, I thought maybe that was that sweetness that I was grabbing. But yeah, I definitely I think I agree with again about the sort of cereal note. But it's really it was fresh. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Scott.
What's the age on this?
Do you know what? It's tough. It's tough to say. That's probably, I would say, a 5 to 6 year old single malt. A lot of the whiskeys you'll be sampling tonight, actually 3 of them are source spirits. So we're very transparent about that. The last one is our own juice, like I said earlier on. So it does change from batch to batch.
Gotcha.
So I'd have to go back through the records and stuff to cross-reference all of that. But as we'll go through the presentation today, you'll understand that we're not just bringing in spirit or bringing whiskey and bottling it. We're really putting our own stamp on things, and we've reached a point now where all these core offerings, the ones that are being retained, we'll be blending in, and we already have started blending in our own single pot still into them and making them our own. So yeah.
It's quite viscous, which is surprising. I didn't know what to expect because I don't really drink a lot of Irish whiskey. But this one's quite good. I get like that honeysuckle on the nose, and it's quite, like refreshing on the palate. It's I wouldn't say sweet, but it's almost like if you were to drink sparkling water, like a fruit flavored sparkling water, where you get the flavor but you don't get the sweetness. It's very like tropical in that nature, right? But it's very viscous. Just from my observation, the legs keep running down this glass for a long time. So I was surprised about that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, like that. I'll talk about some of our technical process later on, but basically it's something called a gentle cut. It's where we add water really, really slowly to the whiskey when we're cutting it down. And yeah, I'll go into it in detail in a second, but that really does help, allow the water and whiskey molecules to bind together in harmony a bit better, and does create a more viscous product with a really pleasant mouthfeel. So excited to share more details on that.
I just
Yeah,
wanted
Sean.
to mention how. Oh, sorry.
No,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to mention. Yeah. I poured my samples about an hour ago, and I usually try to nose them before and then, and it's amazing how oxidation affects this. At least the first one. I haven't gone into the other ones, but I could, the oatmeal characteristic, like very grain forward, right when we uncork them, and it has been evolving. So on the second nosing, that green apple was there, and now it's sort of transforming into a kind of like a papaya and honeydew, very sweet, and that sort of like transition into the front of the palate. I mean, it's beautiful how it's very dense and almost syrupy in mid palate, and then very oaky towards the end. It's very nice whiskey.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a sign of a good whiskey when it does evolve over time. I personally don't want a one-dimensional whiskey, and I do think a lot of our whiskeys have plenty of layers to them. I think the double oak, which we'll try next, is of all the whiskeys we have, if you spend a good amount of time with it, it does really open up and evolve over like half an hour or so if you have a big glass of it.
Man, that's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sean, so you can go into.
Okay, I'll keep on going.
Yeah.
So, that video covered all aspects of our business, I suppose. Well, most of them, but I'll delve into the certain areas a bit deeper right now. So, I suppose the root of the business. So it's my own family's business. If you guys haven't grasped that already, that's a picture of myself when I had some hair before being stressed over the distillery. My brother and my late granddad. So it's a special picture, but that's our barley farm, part of our farm right there. So I suppose take you back from a first person experience from me. Take me back to college, early 2010s. In this very room just over there, I would come home on the weekend from UCC in County Cork, and my dad, he's a bit of a serial entrepreneur, and he had all this apparatus around. It wasn't anything serious at all, but he had coffee filters and bottles, unlabeled bottles, with just a white label, some writing on it I couldn't even read because his handwriting's terrible. And I'd come home and he'd be for a couple of weeks and he'd be playing around things and filtering through the coffee filters and stuff like that. And I kind of just let him be, I suppose. What he was really trying to do was at the time, he had sourced neutral whey alcohol. And he was trying to make, so instead of neutral grain, neutral whey, he was actually trying to make a limoncello out of it. But what he really wanted to do is he wanted to tie in the dairy farm side of our family farm into, he wanted to make a business, an international business, and really showcase, the land, I suppose, and what we can do with it. long story short, we played around that for a while. The limoncello idea, probably for better, didn't work out. And what we decided to do was make gin and vodka from Way. Our Minky Irish gin and Minky Irish vodka in the market right now, and performing really well and universally loved. But we didn't really want to put all our eggs into gin and vodka. We saw the Irish whiskey renaissance happening. And all around this time now, I was graduating college and getting involved in the business more so. The Irish whiskey renaissance was a very clear thing that was happening. So we said, you know, what better thing to do than make Irish whiskey? So it satisfied the need to, you know, employ or create jobs locally, to showcase the family farm, and I suppose satisfy that entrepreneurial itch also. So there we were, and we had the idea, and to move forward, we obviously had to build a distillery, and I'll get to that in a second. But it was important to us to focus on, you know, the family heritage. So my family would be, I suppose, the oldest family that would have lived in my parish by a decent shot. Where I'm right now is my family home. We've been in this home, albeit it's been renovated, but we've lived in this on this footprint for 350 years, which is pretty amazing. So we've also owned the land for 350 years, and we're very proud of it. So we grow our own barley oceanside. These are some of the fields right here, right on the edge of the Galley, at the edge of the Galleyhead Lighthouse. You can see in the background right there. So the whole idea from the get-go was to have the ocean influence our barley. You know, we didn't want this just to be a story that didn't actually matter at all and didn't influence the end product. We're not about that. We want tangible things to actually make a difference. So the goal was to make single pot still whiskey and grow our own barley from it. So the unmalted barley in our single pot still whiskey is grown here on the family farm, or else sourced from neighboring farmers within a 10 to 15 mile radius of the distillery. So we're very sustainably focused as a distillery. I would say, you know, if you kind of subtract all the, you know, the big boys, the really big boys in the Irish whiskey industry, I would say that we're probably the leaders in sustainability, and we're at a fantastic point right now, but always striving to get better. But I'll talk on that more later on.
Hey, Sean, what strain of barley do you grow? Optic or Belgravia?
Joe, that's a good question. I actually don't know the name of the core strain of barley, but if you look down at the bottom there, we are doing a really neat project, and we're growing a barley strain called Goldthorpe.
Oh, Goldthorpe, yeah.
Yeah. So Goldthorpe is so this is only a portion of the field of our Goldthorpe. But basically, our plan is to release a heritage barley release. This will be, you know, an annual release eventually, like a Middleton Very Rare-esque style whiskey, you know, super premium. But basically, the story behind that is back in 2016, or probably before that, maybe 2015. My dad went out to these fields. They were freshly plowed. And he had obtained about 2 handfuls or even less of this ancient grain. So Goldthorpe would have been used on the farm and grown on the farm in my grandfather's day. Honestly, it was kind of being phased out even then, so he didn't grow that much on the farm. But it ceased to be used commercially pretty much because it's a very the strain of barley, it grows very tall, and it also has a very floral head. So when you're the southwest coast of Ireland, if any of you've been there, I know Jason's been there multiple times, and you might have been there in the summer, but if you've been there in the winter, you're constantly being battered by storms. It's the stormiest area of Ireland by a decent shot, I would say. So the Goldthorpe didn't thrive at all. It just gets lodged, battered down, and has very poor yields. So
I think Waterford uses the same strain of barley. Waterford,
yeah, they've done stuff with heritage with Goldthorpe also, correct? So my dad went to the local Irish seed bank, got 2 handfuls of the barley, went out to the corner of the field, sowed it, harvested it, yielded, a small bag, did it again the next year, got a wheelbarrow, kept going, years and years and years. I think it was probably 2022, we had enough barley to do a distillation run of it. So that's how long it took us to build out the stock.
How many runs do you do in a day, or how many runs do you do?
How many runs are stills?
Still, yeah.
We probably, I think it's only 1 or 2 a day, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not all that well versed in I'm not in the distillery all the time. I live in the States, so it's not that much. We have a fairly high production level, to be honest, but it's nothing crazy. We're mostly about quality over quantity.
And what's your barrel entry proof? What proof does it enter your barrels?
I think it's about 60% ABV.
Okay, 120. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a picture perfect day in Clonakilty right there. That's normally not what it's like. Normally you'll have crashing waves crashing over those rocks, creating sea spray that'll land in the barley and impart a unique salinity and kind of brine-like quality on the barley. The soil there is obviously influenced by the maritime environment also. It's not an ideal climate to grow barley. The barley has to be very hardy, and it actually grows thicker husks, so it's more starchy. It's not ideal, to be honest, but again, we're all about quality over quantity. Unmalted barley, like I said, for a single pot still whiskey is grown here. We do have to source the malted barley from the Malting Company of Ireland in Cork because we don't have a malting floor. But we are very proud to be a grain to glass distillery. We literally control all aspects pretty much, minus the malting. We have our own warehousing, which we'll talk about in a second, and also we have our own bottling line, which is even more rare. You'd be surprised how many distilleries don't have those kind of things. So I don't know why my screen is only showing a portion of these slides, just kind of messing up the PowerPoints, but we're going to move on to our double oak, if that's okay with you guys.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah.
So our double oak actually, it was our core whiskey until we released our single pot still very recently. It's very well awarded. Won a double gold in San Francisco. What else did it win? Won a World's Best Blended Irish Whiskey at the World Whiskey Awards. Initially, it was actually ex-bourbon and Virgin American oak finished. So matured ex-bourbon finished off in Virgin American oak, hence the name double oak. What happened then is we were actually introduced to a new style of barrel called NEOC casks. So you see it there at the top, NEOC. It stands for New Era of Cask. So what they are, in layman's terms, it's a shaved and retoasted Bordeaux red wine cask. So while the previous whiskey was just it was finished in a freshly disgorged Bordeaux red wine cask, these casks are far more unique. They're more premium, more expensive. But when we were presented these, we said we'll give it a shot. I believe we're the first distillery in Ireland to use them, and they really transformed the whiskey. So these barrels they're about 1.5 times as thick as a regular bourbon cask would be. So you get that extra range of potential movement for the whiskey to soak into the staves of the cask and pull out those wonderful flavors. They're hand shaved as opposed to be shaved by a machine. So sometimes when casks are shaved, they're shaved on like a rotary basis, and it'll create a ton of fine sawdust, which will actually clog the capillaries in the wood. So with these NEOC casks, that clogging of the wood is negated because you get super clean shavings, so you get maximum movement of the whiskey. to soak into those staves again. So yeah, it's a fantastic barrel. It makes a difference. It adds nuttiness, hazelnuts, almonds to the palate of the whiskey. It also creates a more pleasant kind of creamy mouthfeel. Obviously, from the virgin oak, that's going to implement, obviously vanilla, caramel, charred oak spice up front, and obviously the vanilla and caramel will come through from the ex-bourbon casks as well. But this is, like I said earlier on, this is a whiskey that really does evolve over time. Branded a double oak, but technically, again, now it's a triple oaked whiskey. But it's a beautiful drop to sit down with for half an hour and just to savor it and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I get a lot of ginger on this one. Huge burst of ginger.
Yeah, I get a lot of apple. The pear notes are spot on. What can you disclose the cooperage of the American oak or the char level?
The char level of the American oak, I can't disclose the cooperage or the char level, to be honest. I think it varies from batch to batch. We are like a batch to batch distillery, and we're kind of proud that it's every batch isn't going to be the same as well. They'll evolve over time. I think that's the nice thing about our brand as well. You can try batch 10 versus batch 11, and they'll be very similar whiskeys, but they'll have nuanced differences.
Did you say how long your distillery's been around?
So we were founded in 2016. We physically started distilling in 2019.
How long are these aged for? I don't know if you mentioned that already.
This is a blended whiskey. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So the malt in this is probably about 5 years old. The grain, probably a small bit older than that, maybe 6. Again, and don't hold me to any of those numbers either. Again, it's batch to batch thing. So,
and the single malt was how old? It's about the same.
Yeah, about the same. 5 to 6 year old single malt. This is one of the whiskeys now where the current stock we have in America is still old stock that we've sourced, but we have begun blending in our own single pot still into the SKU. So the single pot still is replacing the malt element of the whiskey. It's going to contain grain still, but that's again having our own juice in this is actually, we find it's actually improve the whiskey even more so. So that's great. Having already won awards from where it was at previously, we're really happy with where it's going.
It's really impressive given the age. I mean, I would have expected a lot older.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a fantastic new distiller. Well, he's not really new anymore, but been with us for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Oisin Mulcahy is his name. He's ex-Dingle Distillery. He's a fantastic distiller, fantastic blender. He does a great job.
Of course, that'll be my next question for the next one. So if everyone's shared their views on this one, could we move on to the next one? Their single pot still.
You want to sample the single pot still?
Yeah, I'd like to sample single pot still and leave the cask, the sherry one, for the last.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to move to that slide. Okay, we'll do the single pot still. So, the single pot still. Sorry, the single pot still is sherry cask finish.
Yeah, but I'm talking about single pot still, and then there's
a port cask finish. You want to sample the sherry cask or the port cask last? Excuse me. Sorry, Kane, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, the port cask at the end, the very end.
The port cask at the very end. Okay, cool. So guys, this is our single pot still. I'm pouring a small jar for myself here. This is the whiskey that we just released. That's 100% our own juice. So the most historic release to date from ourselves by quite a long shot. So this is what we've been leading up to since day one. Like I said, the goal from day one was to create single pot still whiskey from our own farm, and this is the product of that. So it's matured in ex-bourbon casks, and also matured in Oloroso and Amontillado sherry casks. Again, we played around with some different things. Oisin did, our head distiller, and he landed on this combination, and we're delighted where it's at. It actually just won a double gold in San Francisco World Spirits Competition, and just received 92 points by Whiskey Advocate, we heard today. So we've received really good feedback from it so far. So this is 60% unmalted barley, 40% malted barley. I'm not sure if do people want me to go into a small bit of do people want me to chat about single pot still whiskey and the style of whiskey it is, or have you guys?
I think that'll be good because there are a lot of bourbon drinkers here.
Yeah. Okay. Grand. So in Irish whiskey, we have 4 different styles. So we have single grain, being corn. We have single malt, which you guys are all familiar with, and we have blended whiskey, which is normally a blend of malt and grain, but sometimes, like in our case now, it would be single pot still and grain. But then the quintessential style of Irish whiskey is single pot still Irish whiskey. So it'd be the creme de la creme of Irish whiskey styles. Basically, how it came to be was in the early 1600s, when Ireland we were under British rule at the time. The English wanted to implement a malt tax, and we said, to hell with that. We don't want to pay you any more money, basically. And so what we did is we started swapping out some of the malted barley in our mash bills to be unmalted barley. So because it was unmalted barley, it wasn't malt, we avoided the malt tax. So that's how we got around that. And thus, single pot still Irish whiskey was born. So the style itself in general, the key tasting notes you would get from it would be Christmas cake notes, like that kind of fruitiness. You get a very oily, pleasant mouthfeel in there as well. Nice sweetness also. Tiny bit of spiciness as well, almost like a cracked pepper spice coming through. But the whiskey, single pot still whiskey, it flourished. Huge export market for a couple hundred years, and then Irish whiskey just there was a lot of obstacles put in its way. There's prohibition. The coffee still was invented and brought to Scotland, so Scotch whiskey started booming. They could create whiskey faster and cheaper than us. So Irish whiskey struggled. There was I think 50 plus distilleries making single pot still whiskey back in those days, and that reduced all the way down to three whiskey distilleries being open in Ireland as of 2010. Luckily, we're up to 50 plus distilleries now since the Irish whiskey renaissance has been happening. But of those 50 distilleries, there's only about 11 or 12 making single pot still whiskey in Ireland right now, and we're very proud to be one of those. So that's what single pot still whiskey is. It's a really, really nice drop. We're very proud of it. Like I said, the key tasting notes I get on this are I don't know if any of you guys have had Jaffa cakes before. If you guys have been to Ireland or the UK, it's like a chocolate biscuit kind of thing. So it's like a vanilla sponge at the bottom, orange marmalade in the middle, and dark chocolate at top. Those are kind of the key notes that I would get in this whiskey. Obviously, you're going to get the vanilla sweetness, bit of demerara sugar on it as well. Kiwi is a very present, unique note that I get on the nose here. And then on the finish is where you get that sea salt brininess coming through that we always wanted to be present in our whiskey. It's almost like a sea salt caramel. So we're very glad that sea salt caramel note is there because that was a plan from day one, and we do think it's present. So I'd be interested to hear if you guys get any of that salinity coming through.
I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but yes, once you said sea salt caramel, I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's not super salty, but it's got that sweetness and it's got a little bit of salt. And I will say it's the oiliest of the ones that I've tried that we have in the sampling. It's got a very good mouthfeel. It's a really solid expression there.
Thank you.
Is this your like top seller or something like that? It feels like this is quite a. I mean, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, well, this is our flagship whiskey right now, and we'll be moving forward. I mean, we're still establishing it. It's
has
only released in Ireland in May and September in the US, so it's still early days, but yeah, been received really well.
Yeah, it's not widely available here in the US unless you're ordering to caskers, but I think this is their flagship. It's quintessential Irish whiskey in every which way. It's young now. What's the age on this one, Sean?
This is a 4-year-old whiskey. You guys are probably sampling batch 1, I would assume.
Yeah, batch 1.
Yeah, we just released batch 2, and it's getting better. So each batch will just get better and better as we move forward.
That's with the Irish whiskey. It gets better with age because it has unmalted barley. When it's unmalted barley, it takes time to actually. It kind of inhibits fast aging. The older it gets, the better it gets, actually. So I'm waiting for the batch 2. Yeah, and this one is good. I mean, I love this one. I have a bottle of this. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a nice drop.
I really like.
Sorry.
No, I really like how well the sherry cask translate into this one. You can get a little bit of everything, right? Like the sort of like the Marcona almond from the Amontillado, right, and a little bit of fennel with it too, and the vanilla and the lemon from the Oloroso. So it's really, really well done.
Oh yeah, I missed that Amontillado. You're right. This has
Yeah, Amontillado, and that will also Amontillado will contribute a brine-like influence also. But yeah, again, Oisin did a fantastic job choosing the cask for this one, and we're happy that these are our casks moving forward.
Greg, how do you like the nose on this one?
I like the nose on this one. Definitely get the aged sherry cask. I'm picking that up. It's very, very, very nice. I will say the first 2, I think I prefer a little bit more, but that's just my personal preference. I don't get as much of the pear and the citrus forward kind of profile, but I'm also less partial to sherry cask finish versus the first 2 that we had. That's just kind of like a personal palate preference in general, but all of them are very nice so far.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the beauty of having multiple different whiskeys that are all very different, isn't it? We'll all find their favorites. So
yeah, I have I think I have the flip side of Gregory's. I mean, this brings me a little bit more to Speyside in my single malts. I really, especially with the nose, I was brought into that sherry. I almost had like an Amaro. It was a really interesting sort of almost like not really a bitters, but it was more of that sort of sweet wine, chocolate influence in an Amaro, and then it finished really nicely for me. And I think that's more of my preference, certainly with Scotch in general, is probably more of that Speyside influence.
Yeah, brilliant. Glad you enjoy it. Thanks very much. Should I keep moving forward, Kane, or do you have anything else?
Sean, do you have that slide with the sherry cask? How you recharge them? Do you have those slides? Because Patrick shared in the last tasting those slides with us.
Oh, I don't have anything on that, to be honest.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm running on a different presentation right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. So okay. So let's go to the next one.
Okay, cool. Are you okay if I talk a small bit more about the distillery and then move on to the next sample?
Yeah, talk about your distillery because I need to know more. I think everyone wants to know more because this is a new distillery. So The more
Yeah,
we do
cool.
that.
So this is our distillery. So the distillery is 5 miles inland. On the right hand side there, you can see an outline of Ireland. That gold circle is where we're located on the southwest coast. But Clonakilty is a small town. It's a rural town, about 4,000 to 5,000 people. So everything's grown oceanside. We bring the barley in 5 miles inland to the distillery. This building was actually built to be a bank back in 2008. That wasn't obviously an ideal time to build a bank, so the bank actually never moved in, and we managed to snap it up, and it fit our distillery pretty much perfectly. I mean, we knocked out a couple of floors to fit in the stills and everything, but we managed to have all our production in there, visitor center, gift shop, all that kind of things, all those kind of things built there. So all production on our site here. We have our 3 copper pot stills for our triple distilled whiskey. We have our gin still also there that we use for both our gin and our vodka, and fermentation on site obviously as well. So we're very hands-on as a distillery. All our distillers make their cuts based on taste and nosing. We also practice extra long fermentation times. To be honest, that number there is outdated. That should be closer to 100 plus hours. So that allows more fruity esters to develop in the whiskey. So we were given very solid advice from a big distillery in Ireland from the get-go to make sure that you're starting off with a good brew, and don't rush that. If you've probably heard the analogy multiple times, about baking a cake, and you start with good ingredients and build from there. So we were very clear from the get-go we were going to practice extra long fermentation times, and it's paying dividends for sure right now. And that's why I think our spirit right now is so good, even though it's not an old spirit. We've won Best New Make Spirit in Ireland on 2 occasions for a single pot still and once for a single malt. So 3 times total, and no other distillery in Ireland has won any of those accolades more than once. This picture here is taken from the perspective of where the barley fields were that you saw previously, and that back peninsula in the back right is the dairy farm. That's where our Atlantic Ocean warehouse is. I need to find the picture. Here we go. So our Atlantic Ocean warehouse is perched 200 feet above the ocean on a cliff edge. Similar to the story about the barley being grown inside, we really wanted the whiskey to be influenced constantly by the maritime environment that surrounds it as it's sitting in the warehouse. So yeah, we believe that if you think of maturation in the simplest of forms, there's 3 real core elements to it. There's the wood, there's the whiskey, and then there's the environment or the atmosphere that surrounds it. So obviously you're going to have your angel share, and that vacant space isn't just going to turn into a black hole with nothing in it. It has to be filled with something. So the air that surrounds the warehouse, or it's in the warehouse, is going to get pulled into those casks. It's going to sit there, and it's going to naturally influence the whiskey. So obviously it's the brown-like influence on our single pot still right now. That's going to become more and more prevalent as that whiskey is sitting there for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you name it. So excited to see where that takes us. But yeah, we've purposely placed air vents in that warehouse. We've one at the top and one end, and one at the bottom and the other end. So when the air comes in, it literally whips around in there and is constantly interacting with the casks.
Hey Sean, how do you lay your barrels? Upright or sideways?
They're upright.
Upright.
Yeah. It's easier to manage for us. I know in America it's done sideways, but we find it's easier to manage upright.
Do you use climate control in the warehouses or open to?
No.
Oh, that's control. Good. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, we just let nature do its thing. So yeah, like I was saying earlier on, we practiced some technical processes to make these whiskeys our own. They were implemented initially, obviously, because we were sourcing whiskey and we were trying to put our own stamp on things. But we continue to do these now that we have our own juice in the market. The first is minimal filtration. Minimal filtration is something that we came about implementing via, I suppose, a need to do it rather than a want to do it, but it definitely makes a difference. So initially we were filtering to 8 microns, and what we found is that there was a thin, like translucent film being built up in the filter, which was actually all like fatty flavor congeners that wasn't making it through to end bottling. It was stripping out a lot of the color of the whiskey as well. So we first bottled our port cask, and it was just making it super pale. So what we did is we opened up that filter from 8 microns to 31 microns. It allowed all the fatty flavor congeners that we'd love to have in the whiskey to pass through, and allowed us to retain the color. All these premium whiskeys of ours also are non-chill filtered, which is important to us. The other technical process.
Can you say where you guys were sourcing from, or is that are you not allowed to disclose that?
Yeah, unfortunately we can't disclose that. But again, we've sourced from multiple places over the years, so it's a batch by batch kind of thing. So the other technical process
any plans for peated release sometimes in the future?
Do you know what? We're open to it, and we've never said no to it. So we might do, but to be honest, we've had a lot on our plate with this new release and stuff like that. So we're trying to just kind of get through this and really establish our current core SKUs before we start playing around too much. And we'll have those exciting releases of the Heritage Barley release and stuff to come as well. So,
do you have any exclusive types with bodegas in Spain?
Do we have any what? Sorry.
Types with bodegas in Spain.
Do we have any types of bodegas?
No, tie-ups. I mean, do you have any collaboration with any bodegas in Spain?
Oh, we don't. Well, we have we go through a cask broker. We don't have any direct affiliations.
I think your whiskey will really do good in Malaga cask. I think it'll.
Yeah, I think we've done some single barrels of it before. I haven't sold any to my markets, but we've played around with, you name it, all different casks for our single barrels, and yeah, we've come across some real winners.
Any plans to do any cask strength releases?
All our single barrels will be cask strength, so that they will be the core of our cask strength releases. To be honest, some brewery collaborations. We're very well known for our brewery collaborations in the US, which we're kind of slowing down on them a small bit, but we've every state we entered into the US, we try to collaborate with a local brewery that has a similar story to us or a similar ethos to us. And we get beer casks off them, air freight them to Ireland, fill up those casks with our whiskey, and then send it back as a limited collaboration to those markets. So it's that's a labor of love for sure. It's expensive to do, but it also gives us really good exposure in those local markets. Sorry, Kane, I'm just going to go back here 1 second. The gentle cut is something really interesting that we do. It's where we cut down our whiskey really slowly over the period of 2 to 3 weeks, as opposed to a couple of hours. So the bigger distilleries, when they're cutting their whiskey, they'll just dump all the whiskey into the vatting tanks in one go to proof it down. What that does is actually it creates an exothermic reaction, so it creates a ton of heat. That heat can actually damage the more delicate flavor congeners in a whiskey and stop them from developing, really, to be honest. So what we do is we use our water from the family farm, again, so trying to keep things as in-house as possible. This is like the purest of the pure water. We wouldn't even filter it if we weren't forced by the Irish Whiskey technical file to filter it. But we slowly add a couple of gallons every day, proofing it down from cask strength to bottling strength. That negates that exothermic reaction happening. So again, you get more like flavor profile development there. You get more different flavor congeners developing at different ABVs as you proof it down. And it also creates a more pleasant mouthfeel. because you just give time for the whiskey molecules and the water molecules to bind together slowly over time. So that's a process we borrowed from the cognac industry in France from the get-go, and we trialed it. We found it made a big difference to our whiskey, so we're sticking with that. Again, it's a way of differentiating ourselves as well from the big boys. We can afford to have our vatting tanks tied up for this period of time, but the bigger distilleries can't. They're churning out whiskey, literally just blending it one day, bottling it, and here we go on to the next project. Whereas we're giving all our whiskey time.
Yeah, Old Ale does the same. Old Ale, Greg.
Yeah, Old Ale do the same. Yeah. I'm going to let's sample more whiskey, and then I'll talk about sustainability. So let's sample our port cask finish, the final whiskey of the night. Pour myself a small drop. So this is a blended Irish whiskey, again, similar to the double oak finish. So malted barley and grain whiskey. This is matured in ex-bourbon casks and then finished off in port casks. So naturally, if you compare it to the double oak, especially, it's going to be a bit sweeter. It'll be sweeter than our single pot still as well. But you'll get real nice kind of dark fruits coming through, cherries, raisins, a bit of chili coming through. And then European oak being a spicier variety of oak compared to the American oak, the virgin oak that we use in the double oak. You will get some more present spice coming through in this whiskey, but it comes through in the finish. Personally, I really enjoy the spice in this because I'm not a fan of an overly sweet whiskey. So that spice kind of really balances it out for me. It's, again, a benefit of being a small to medium distillery for us is that we can really, keep an eye on these casks as they're maturing and make sure we're not leaving them in the port casks for too long and they're becoming overly sweet and sickly, or we're not disgorging them too early as well. We can kind of keep track of them at that 4-point mark. So it's normally 4 to 6 months of finishing we allow in those port casks. And I'd be interested to know what people think of this.
Very biscuity. Very biscuity.
You definitely get those raisins and dark fruits on this one. The soft spices is spot on.
I would agree. Yeah.
I'd say it's one of my favorite finishes.
Yeah, it's probably the longest of the 4 I've had.
I do particularly like this one. I get a lot of like fig and date in there. I don't know if you've ever had like bacon wrapped dates cooked in the oven, but it kind of reminds me of that.
Never had them. It sounds good though.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
They are very, very good. Very, very good.
Like candy.
Yeah, it's a nice drop. I mean, this kind of existed in harmony with our double oak. Unfortunately, it's going to be something. It'll be in the market for another probably 2 years or so, I'd say. But it's a whiskey we're phasing out in America. Again, just trying to get a bit more narrow with our offerings. But it's been a popular one while we've had in the market.
How many bottles a year would you say that you guys export to America? In general, on all your offerings?
Yeah, in general, all our offerings, it depends on the year. We probably do 3 to 5,000 probably. But sorry, 3 to 5,000 cases.
Oh wow.
Cases of 6.
How wide is your distribution? Is it how many states?
We are in about 15 to 16 states right now. We're pretty much all up and down the East Coast, in Texas, Missouri, Illinois. California, Colorado, Oregon. I live in I'm in Ireland right now, but my home away from home, permanent home now is Oregon, so that's where I live.
So you're doing this now. It's like pretty late where you are.
Yeah, it's 2:10 in the morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He had to fly there because he was here in Oregon. He was going to do the first tasting as well, but I think he had. I think Corey joined in late. He had a family tragedy.
Yeah, and I'm home for Christmas anyway, so I'm here till the New Year. But one of our co-founders, Porg, is in Florida. He was meant to be doing this, and his laptop is having his laptop's broken basically. So I got the call up. So here we are. But
yeah,
happy to join you guys. I'll have a bit of a sleep in the morning.
No, I think both you and Pedrick should alternate because that way, it's interesting. He brings a different perspective. You bring a totally different perspective.
Okay, cool.
Sean, you said you were phasing this out. What's the timeline on that? This is a nice product.
Yeah, it's again, it's totally dependent how fast it sells, to be honest. But I would suspect it'll definitely be around for a year.
Okay.
It may be small but longer than that. Could push to 2 years. But while it's at the top of my mind, guys, as well, I know you guys are spread out all throughout the US, and it's hard to find stockists of whiskey like ourselves in your local stores sometimes. Obviously, you can ask for it if you want, but we also have an online shop. If you guys want to go to our website, we have a US specific shop that ships out of San Diego, and I've set up a discount code for you guys to get 10% off as well. So it's SIPS 10, so SIPS 10. That'll give you 10% off if anyone wants to buy anything. And
yeah, is that Caskers or where is that SIPS 10? Where does it apply?
It applies on our own website.
Oh yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
Well,
Our own online shop.
Not
So all the whiskeys you guys are trying tonight are they're all on that site. And a couple of collaborations and the Minky Gin and Minky Vodka as well.
Can you give that code again?
Yes. So it's SIPS 10. So all capitals SIPS 10.
I think sometimes late spring we should do the batch 1 and batch 2 and compare the notes because I think that'll be really interesting to compare the two batches that come out of your distillery.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
And I think next time we should add the Minke because I'm a big fan of your Minke gin.
Mm-hmm.
That's blown me out, man. The mouthfeel is so buttery and so rich.
Yeah.
Greg, I think you missed on it. Did you hear about Minke's story? I think we should delve a little bit, though it's not part of tasting today. I think you should delve a little bit on Minke.
Yeah, so Minky Gin and Minky Vodka. So again, they're whey-based spirits. So as opposed to being a neutral grain spirit, neutral whey spirits. So we basically provide a local creamery with milk. We have 350 cows, and that milk is made it's bottled milk, or else it's made into cheese. The byproduct of cheese, whey, and it's the sugars in the whey are converted to ethanol. So this local creamery is one of 2 plants in Europe, I believe, that convert whey to ethanol. So we get that back as a neutral whey-based spirit, and we redistill it at our distillery with our botanicals. In the gin's case, we put in plenty of citrus elements, so great for gin and tonics. We try and take it small but easy on the juniper elements. We don't want that to overwhelm all the more delicate botanicals like lavender and such in the gin. So hold back on that a bit. And we also hand forage a local botanical off the coast of Ireland called rock samphire. That botanical grows 3 meters above the high water mark. So we literally have to go out like in kayaks sometimes and hand forage it. But that provides like almost like an aniseed licoricey back note, but again, some brine-like qualities given the proximity it grows to the edge of the ocean. So it's fantastic gin, fantastic vodka, but it's really for me anyway. It's all about the mouthfeel from that whey-based spirit that comes forward. It's unbelievably creamy and viscous.
It's one of the few gins I love having neat, just straight without nothing. I think
Definitely.
Greg, I'll bring you some samples when I'm on my way there. You should try it. You'll love it.
I love gin, so I've never had a whey-based gin before. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Believe me, it's going to change the way you look at gin. This feels like molten butter. It feels like you're sipping on. I mean, it's like molten cream or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's so viscous. It's very oily, and I'm totally sold because after whiskey, if there's something that I really love going after is gins, and this is really good.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's nice again coming back to talking about stories, but it's not just being a story. We love that we can talk about our farm and tie all that into the story, but to actually have it make a tangible difference to the end product is important to us. So it's it's a special one for sure. It sells pretty well for us.
So yeah, I think one good thing, Sean, is your whiskey's a gateway to bourbon here. I mean, or I'd say the other way around. Bourbon drinkers will have easy time sipping on your Irish whiskeys because, Jason, you have to correct me here. I think it's a very easy transition from your whiskeys to the bourbons. I think bourbon drinkers should. I don't think they'll have any problems migrating. Greg, what do you? Greg is big time in a bourbon, so I think I'll hear from Greg.
Yeah, are you talking to me or a different Greg?
There's only one Gregory. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed. I didn't know what to expect, quite honestly, because I don't drink. I'm an American whiskey drinker for the most part. For no other reason, I just prefer that the kind of mash bill, and it just kind of like sits with me, just like any other food would. But I was really, really pleasantly surprised at how easy and inviting they were, especially the last two were definitely unique with the different finishes. I like this last one a little bit more. I mean, obviously you're not going to love them all the same, but I was really impressed with how approachable they were and how the diversity of especially on the nose, because I'm a nose guy. I mean, I could sit there for an hour just nosing a whiskey, and to me that's just as enjoyable as drinking it. So yeah, I was really, really, really impressed.
Thanks very much. Glad you enjoyed
Me
it.
too. I mean, sometimes I nose my whiskey, just let it rest. I put one of these on my whiskey, and then I just go about my work, and then I come back again, nose it. If it hits all the right notes on my nose, I think the whiskey is a big seller. And I personally think your single pot still is incredible. It has a lot of tropical notes, and I love tropical notes. I mean, it's juicy, very tropical, and takes me back to where I'm from in India, in Goa, which is it's the western, it's Hawaii of India.
Brilliant.
So it takes me there, and we make a local drink called feni, which is made of cashew. And
Okay.
all the notes from that drink is right here. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, your single pot still, I think, as it ages, it's going to be one of the best. I have a feeling this is going to go places, and I'm really happy. I was the first one to latch on to. I'm among the first ones to latch onto your brand. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I appreciate you guys trying it all. Yeah, no, the single pot stills. It's a winner for sure. It's no guarantee that you get your first release right. So to have it being received so well is great. We planned to wait till it was like a 6-year-old, to be honest, initially. But then when we started winning those best new make awards for it and stuff, we moved that timeline forward. We just became more confident in it, and here we are.
No, honestly, I love this brand so much that I think Pedrick must have told you. I almost thought of jumping in as an investor, one of the investors in your brand.
Oh, really? He didn't
Yeah,
tell me that.
yeah. I spoke to your dad, so I was so sold on this when I tried it the first time around. It's pretty much. It's just I'm waiting for these whole nonsense to settle down before I
Yeah.
decide. Yeah, because you don't know which way anything is going. So I'd like to take a back seat, watch things, and then maybe we'll talk about that on a later date. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I had a long chat with your dad. Yeah.
Brilliant. Good. Well, you know where to find us.
Anyway, so do you have any final words before we end the live and we can still hang out here and talk? Because other than Ruse is one of the oldest. He's my admin, and Corey, who's been around forever with Whiskey Mavens. The rest, if you guys want to interact with one another and get to know each other better, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
any final words, Sean? You can go ahead, and then I'll end the live, and then we can still carry on.
yeah. Well, to be honest, it's 2:30 in the morning, so I'm probably going to head off right after the live. So I'm going to hit the hay. I have to hit. I'm going bottling tomorrow, so we're slammed with orders. So I'm joining the bottling team tomorrow. So I'm going to go to bed. But yeah, guys, appreciate you trying all the whiskeys. Appreciate your time and enthusiasm behind learning more about ourselves. Hope to reconnect over time again, as Kane said, as our single pot still matures and we have different batch options out there. And, like that heritage barley release that I mentioned as well will be a really exciting one, which I think would be a really good opportunity for us to chat about in the future. But
I would like to see what others have to say about when we compare 2 or 3 batches. I just want to know how the progression has happened. So we'll get the first hand, from everyone here. And pretty much everyone here is really into whiskey. And
yeah,
I call them experts. Pretty much everyone is very deeply knowledgeable about whiskey and the process. So that'll be
great.
interesting.
Yeah, it'd be a fun one. It'd be interesting to do like a blind tasting of sorts or something. That's always a beneficial way of doing it.
Yeah, we have to do blind with color-coded blind so that we know exactly what people are looking for.
Yeah. Brilliant. Good.
Okay, Sean, I think you need to hit the sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better. And convey my condolences to your dad. I'm really sorry, man, for your loss. So yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, and
Appreciate it.
We'll do this again sometimes early spring or late spring, whenever.
Brilliant. Just let us know. Thanks again, Kane. I appreciate you, and thanks everyone else for joining. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care of yourselves. Bye now.
You as well.
Thank you.